She said, if it's hard, you're writing from ego, and anything you write from ego is going to be a slog. When it's easy and in flow, you're writing from spirit, and it's so important to open up those channels. Not even how are you going to promote it. For me, I took a more subtle message of, what are you building anyway? Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode. Lisa Bean here. In today's episode, I feel so lucky to be sharing with you some of the biggest things I took away from this HayHouse Writers Retreat, HayHouse Writers Workshop. So I went this weekend on the train to London, and I spent 2 days in the audience of about 350 people, and the team at HayHouse brought together the most incredible information and speakers, all huge authors and leaders in their own right, to teach us how to write and publish a book. It was incredible. There's 3 or 4 big things I learnt that I want to share with you in today's episode. But before I even get into any of that, I just want to say, if you're writing a book and you ever see the tickets or the event or the workshop and get the chance to go, whether it's online or in person, and you're on the fence, you think, should I go, shouldn't I? You should. You should absolutely go. It was amazing. The event was beautiful, the energy was amazing, the people that the event attracted, so pure and generous and gentle, just lovely, kind-hearted people. That's where they are. That's where they are. It was amazing. It was so good for me, and I think even the act of getting on the train and going somewhere, it was really nice for me to go in that space and have that energy be held. So I learned a lot as an audience member and how it feels to be an audience member, part of an event. But guys, I learned so much as well about business, marketing, books, and what is fascinating is how similar it is writing and launching a book to writing and launching a course, and the things that you have to do and how you have to think about it. But there was something this weekend that I've been reminded of that I think I forgot, and I'm going to come to that shortly. So let me share with you some of the biggest takeaways without giving away too much of the magic. That's theirs, and you've got to go for it. Let me share with you some of the biggest things I took away from the HayHouse Writers Workshop. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing that I took away from this is it is on you, but you're not alone. It's on you, but you're not alone. So I see this a lot with people in business, and I saw it a lot at the event, and they talked a lot about it, that it is you that has to write and publicize your book and promote your book. So there were a few people standing up saying, what if I don't want to put my face on social media? What if I don't want to be on Instagram? Can I write this book under an alias? And the huge resounding message that came through from everybody was, whatever your message is, own it and find a way to stand up in your body and share that message with the world. It is on you, and you're the one that's got to nurture that book and craft the book and think about how you're going to promote it. I don't think a world exists where you write a book and you message about it once anonymously and that book takes off. That doesn't happen. When you write a book, you've got to have somewhere for that book to go, and that somewhere is a community, isn't it? It's got to be received by a group of people who go, do you know what, Lisa, I love your stuff, I love what you're sharing, and I'm really into this message, yes please. Oh my God, you've written a book, yes, I would love to buy that book. Not to support you. There is going to be a degree of that, and I've experienced that, and it is incredible, but it isn't just that, and this message was really, really clear at the weekend. Nobody goes in and buys a book for the sake of buying a book. I mean, okay, that's a lie, because I do, but very few people, aside from me, will go in and be like, oh, I'm going to buy that book just to support somebody, or I'm going to buy that book just because. People buy something because there's something in it for them. Like, what is the message? What is the learning? What is the transformation that comes out of this book? And this all starts with you and you as a leader in the world. So this whole idea of it being on you and that you should build it anyway. So I got the really strong impression that if you're running workshops and you're putting courses together and you're sharing content, that is like, I want to say 99% of the battle. Of course it is. Of course it is. If you're building a profile and building a community and developing your message and practicing it in a workshop with 5 people, with 20 people, with 50 people, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's live, you're putting together a podcast, you're writing content for a blog, whatever it is, if you're writing a book there was some talk about writing the book before the book. Kelly Notaris, who runs her own agency, was talking about the book before the book, which is the book you might want to write to go on your own healing journey rather than the book you share with the world. Unless you're writing a book just for you, when you publish the book, when you think about it, publish, what does that mean? It's not like print it, ta-da, look at it, and you leave it on your coffee table and that's that. If you're publishing a book and your intention is for people to read it, you can't rely on the publishing house or your agent to say, hey Lisa, don't you worry about it. You just rest your lovely little face. We're going to promote the hell out of this for you. Like that, it just doesn't happen. But I think subconsciously or in the back of our minds, we kind of hope that that does happen. It doesn't. It's you, it's your message, your gift, your project, and it's your job to go and create that community. So the biggest thing that I was taken away from it is how important it is. In fact, how grateful I am to even have anybody who would listen to this or watch this today, you know, to have the privilege of being able to press send on an email and it to go out to a few thousand people and have some of them say, yeah, do you know what, Lisa? I like your stuff. Thank you. Click. I'm interested in that. Let me give that a watch. Let me give it a listen. Let me take that next step, whatever it is, when that's appropriate. You got to be building it anyway. You're doing the promo. And if you're thinking, I want to publish it under an alias, or I don't want anyone to know I wrote it, or I don't want to go on social media, there's the work. Why not? What are you afraid of? What do you think's going to happen? You have to do that work. So when you go to this event, it isn't just about writing the book. There's a huge part about not even how you're going to promote it. For me, I took a more subtle message of what are you building anyway? Say you never write the book, say you never publish a book, what are you putting out into the world anyway? Who is that community and who are you bringing together? I thought that was so valid and so important. And before I move on, there's so much. Let me just share a few more little things on this because I'm just looking at my little notes here. So there was a huge message about there being no gatekeeper. There is no gatekeeper. And some of the writers who were writing in the 70s and 80s came on and were saying, guys, do you know how lucky you are to be able to write a book and have print on demand through Amazon and not have to go and buy like 1,000 copies and put them in your garage, and to be able to self-publish? What a privilege that is. Like, we never had that back in the day. And everyone's thinking, oh, there's too much on social and it's too hard. You've got to flip it and think, what an incredible opportunity. You don't even have to write a book. You can create an incredible series of articles. You can get published in magazines. You can create your own podcast and share whatever you want in whatever format that you want. So you've got to look at it as an opportunity and think there are no gatekeepers. You're probably now acting as the only gatekeeper for yourself as to whether you would share it in the world or not. And there was something I was talking to a client about this morning. I said to this client who I've worked with for years and years, I said, I want to ask you an honest question. How much credit is there in your current audience, and how much credit have you got in an audience that you're building? Now, what I mean by credit is this. There are people who launch, and they launch and rinse their list. Guys, I've got this new offer. Guys, I've got this new product. Guys, I need your help with this. Every time you do that, you're dipping into your credit that you've built with your audience, and that depletes. It's like givers get, right? It's like the more you give, the more you get. In order to get something back from your community and be received and helped and supported, you've got to lead the way and be generous up front. So when you're thinking about putting together a book or a course or a program, you cannot do that in secret and then launch it to nobody and think, where are the sales? Or rinse your list selling something, rinse it again selling something else, and then, oh, I need more money, let me go sell something else. At the HayHouse event, I just got such a sense of service. And this is probably one of the other big things that I took away, was how important it was not to think about what is in this for me all of the time, but to think about what is in it for the other person. So if they pick up your book, or they come on your webinar, or they buy your course, it's not like, I'm going to make 10 sales at £1,000, that's a 10k month, which so many people talk about. It's more, what promise am I making to somebody in this course, in this book, in this webinar, and how am I going to fulfill on that promise up front? So a lot of the speakers who got up on stage, so Chris Carr, what a beautiful energy, beautiful soul. She was hilarious, so funny, tackling really big topics and really kind of, difficult topics. Chris Carr is the creator of Crazy Sexy Cancer. You might have read her books or seen her content around that. She's lived with stage 4 cancer for 22 years. And she put these ideas together, Crazy Sexy Cancer, and explain where that concept came from. And I won't spoil it. Go on her website, she'll tell you the story, or read her books, she'll tell you the story about it. But Chris Carr, Sonia Choquette, Vex King, the author of High Vibes, High Life, and Healing is the New High, 1.5 million copies sold of his last book. Incredible. They brought him in as a speaker and we all just sat. The speakers were so different, but I tell you the thing that underpinned all of them: kindness, service, humility. It emanated from them in such a profound way. You relaxed. They didn't ask anything of you. They didn't want anything of you. They were there to share, and that is so refreshing. So obviously I'm in the online course space, the online business space, and to me this space feels very tricksy. Like, get you in this webinar because I'm going to sell, and offer this lead magnet because there's something else. And I honestly really hope it's my mission for my stuff never to come across like that. So if I launch something, I never think, what am I going to get out of this and what's the next thing? I always think, how can I blow people's socks off so they feel like I've been robbed? That is a mentality I live with. How can I show up and help no matter what it takes or what it costs? How can I be useful? How can I help? And that energy served me very, very well. I would say these speakers took that, times it by infinity, and then just gave it back to us. I'm going to use these words just to kind of bring it home. And it's so funny that I would choose these words, but there was no sense of desperation, no sense of tricksiness, no sense of, I'm going to give you this so I get this back. Honestly, the energy was so generous, so relaxed, because of that, it was so grounded. The speakers, I just relaxed and I paid attention. They were talking about their experiences, about what it takes, about what they've learned, about their writing practice. It was so honest and so normal. It was amazing. And you know what, guys? It only made them more attractive to me. I bought all of their books. You could get them signed, and I didn't dare want to miss any other bits, so I didn't stand in the queues to get these books signed. I just went straight back in because I was like, more content please. It was so good. So when you're creating things and you're building your course and you're building your audience, obviously you've got to have that audience, and I think really come from a place of service. And I've never used those words before, so they sound a bit alien coming out of my mouth. I would always say to people, be generous, share your thought leadership, give value up front, build credit with your audience. And I think there is a very strong commercial underlying message with what I share. I do want to teach good-hearted people how to sell, how to market, how to build a proper business, because I don't think many people have these skills. And there's so many stats now about how few people actually make money in their business and then get to 6 figures. I am passionate about good-hearted people making money, feeling safe, and having money to invest in courses, programs, teams, the next level of their success. So I'm not going to lose that message. But it just reminded me how important it was to be generous, and just how attractive that is, and how not everything you do has to make money, Lisa. Sorry, wait, this is to you guys, letter to you, not to me. Not everything you have to do has to be like, oh, this will lead to this and this will lead to this. And I think a lot of times, because time is tight and there are a lot of demands on our time, sometimes I do, and I probably do teach, think about what you're selling and how this content's going to lead to that and how you're going to build a community. And that's the bit I forgot, guys. Honest confession, I forgot to just be useful. Arnold Schwarzenegger's just come out with a book called Be Useful, and I think I'm listening to it at the minute, the introduction and the bit about vision. I'm really enjoying it. It's so good. He's on a different end of the scale about graft and work, and I love that. I love the mix of graft, work, turn up, do it. And at the HayHouse event, they were talking about, yeah, you got to sit down and write. Like, at the end of the day, you have got to write. But they talk a lot about enjoying the process, relaxing into it, making it a ritual, making it a beautiful experience. And Sonia Choquette talked a lot about this. She said, if it's hard, you're writing from ego, and anything you write from ego is going to be a slog. When it's easy and in flow, you're writing from spirit, and it's so important to open up those channels and relax. And she talked a lot about listening and intuition. So I bought all her books, all her oracle cards. Oh my God, guys, I left with an additional bag I want to say suitcase, but that's a step too far, of books, and I'm not embarrassed about it, all right? So there's the first couple of things. The first one is, it is on you. Don't think about, I'm going to get published and then, haha, everything's going to be magic and then my publisher's going to sort this out for me. No, they're looking at you and asking, how are you going to promote it? Who's your audience? Who's your community? With HayHouse, the people who went to this weekend, everyone gets the chance to submit a book proposal. And the incredible thing is, everyone, all 300 plus people, are going to get individual feedback on their proposal, and one, maybe more people who go to the event will win a book deal with HayHouse. What? How incredible is that? And they did say, we are going to look at your writing and we're not going to be worried about your profile, but it is never going to hurt for you to talk about the workshops that you're delivering, the people who are consuming your content, to see you on a stage or to see your articles that you've written. It matters, because at the end of the day, you've got to do it for you and your community. So big message, be building that and be doing it anyway. There's no gatekeeper anymore. You can be sharing content and be being useful now. And the second thing was this beautiful energy of service and spirit. It was so attractive and magnetic. It just made you feel so relaxed as an audience member. And all of the speakers who got up on stage spoke about the HayHouse family, how they knew it was HayHouse, how they wanted HayHouse from the start, how committed and like how, I'm searching for the word, almost like they just want to be of service. They have a message and they want to share it, and they're so grateful that it was HayHouse, and how everyone had a story about how it had come about, where it was just like, of course, it was like an unfolding rather than a forcing. And I think that was really, really beautiful. So something that I have reminded myself of, or have been reminded about at this event, is to just, Lisa, pet, if you're listening to this in the future, balance that commercial drive to make a living doing what you love with the drive to enjoy the process and build ritual and routine, and not ever to do it from ego, to keep that ego, your barking dog, as Sonia Choquette called it. Sonia, it was really funny. Sonia said, right, your ego is your barking dog. You got to think, is yours a poodle, a Labrador? And she was asking people, what's your barking dog called? And I thought, please don't come to me, Sonia, because I love dogs so much. I could never think about a dog being an ego, because a dog for me is spirit. And some people said, oh, I can't think, or they came up with something and she said, no, that's not it. Go deeper, go deeper. And I just couldn't help but think about how much I love dogs. So I'm going to have to think of like the roaring lion or something like that. But then I love all animals. That was tricky for me. But the message was, don't get caught up in your ego. Your ego's not the one. You've got to write from heart, from soul. And I thought, Lisa, have you forgotten a little bit of that? Like, do you just need to remind yourself and create more space and ritual? So before filming today, I did ask for guidance, and I said, just tell me what I should tell people, please. I'm open to hearing it, that will be useful. And I lit a candle, and it smells amazing in here. And the second I asked for guidance, I started this about 5 times, and I was like, oh my God, Lisa, why are you so hyper? Take a breath, pet. Asked for guidance, and then I just felt a little bit calmer. So you're lucky you're getting this version and not version 2 or 3, let me tell you. I'm just looking at my notes, guys, and there's so much. So let me move on to this third point. And when I've done this, I'm going to go through some of the little bullets I wrote and read them back to you. So the third biggest thing I took away from this, and this really came from a speaker who I'd never seen before called Simone Heng. She was incredible. She was an explosive bomb of energy when she got up on stage, and she was so funny. Chris Carr, Simone Heng, they were so funny, and I loved the humour. I loved the humour again. So relaxing and so different from some of the other speakers. And that was something, all the speakers were so different, but they were so themselves. It was magnetic, and I remember that. You are the magic. That was a really big thing. So Simone Heng really pushed this, and so did Kelly Nataris, who, like a lot of people at HayHouse, is an editor, was an editor for years and years, and now helps people put their books and their concepts and their edits together. She was amazing, so inspiring. I loved her energy, really beautiful energy, really honest. You just felt like you just warmed to her instantly. So she wrote a book, in fact, let me get it here. She wrote a book called The Book You Were Born to Write, everything you need to finally get your wisdom onto the page and into the world. And I've bought this as well. So, like, guys, I've got a reading pile. The message is, you need to know what your message is and who that message applies to. So when I'm writing, I don't think I think of that. And it's something I have to reflect on. I want to reflect on. So in HayHouse, they had a theme called educational memoir, teaching memoir. That was it, teaching memoir. And I thought, that's what mine is. So I like writing stories about my life and then pulling the learnings out of those stories and sharing them. So writing the second book I'm working on, working title Be the Person, I might be able to do better than that. That could be the subline. They were saying that people go to a bookshop because they've got a problem to solve, and they're going to pick up a book where the title speaks to them and says, hey, in this book, I am going to show you how to in this way, and as a result, you will. And you have to know going into a course or a business or a workshop or a live event or writing a book or putting together a podcast, what is the message of that podcast, of that book, of that thing that you're producing, and who is it for? Now I'm going to share something with you that was so incredible. So Sonia Choquette, she stood up on stage, and I've seen her speak before about 8 years ago. She is incredible, very embodied in her body. So before we began, she had us putting our arms up in the air, taking a deep breath, and then sighing it out. She played music, we danced, put us in our body, out of ego and into spirit. And it was really, really beautiful. And she shared something that was so funny. She said, guys, the most gross thing that you could do is write to them. Write a book for that audience, for those people. She said, no one wants to be preached to. No one wants to think that like you're the teacher and you know best and you're now proclaiming to them what they have to do. She gave us the best advice. I absolutely freaking love this. She said, you need to write to yourself. It needs to be a love letter to yourself. Whether it's who you are now or who you were 5 years ago, don't write it to them, because she comes from a place of spirit and connectedness where she says, who is them? There is no them. There is only us. Oh, it was so good. You could just hear in the room everybody go, oh, yes, that makes sense. Don't write to them. Don't write for somebody. And it's a really funny thing because in the online world, we all talk about customer avatars and who's our audience and who's this for. And that was a really big message that came through from the other speakers and the people who were running the event. And they were just balancing it with Sonia's message saying, you do have to know who's going to pick up the book. And what Sonia was saying is, you are the first person that's going to pick up the book. You are the first reader of that book, and you're the most invested reader. So write a book that you would want to read. And I thought, oh my God, that is so beautiful. So I haven't mentioned so far, a lot of you listening or watching will know, I wrote my first book in 2020, or I published it in 2020. It was called First Shit Version. And the idea of this book was, don't wait for perfection or permission. Just put out the first shit version of your video, your course, your podcast, you, in all your messy glory, and go from there. And the way that book came about was I kept talking to people about their programs, their courses. Lisa, I can't make a video. Lisa, I can't do this. And I said, listen, you don't have to make it perfect. Just put out the first shit version and just go and think about the one person it can help. And when I think back about writing that book, I'd say the biggest person that book helped, I have no scientific evidence for this, but it was me. It was so cathartic and healing to write that book, and I feel better for having done it. And I've looked recently and thought, I'd love to update the book. There's some things that are a bit clumsy, or, you know, I've become a better writer. I know I could make this better. And I'm like, yeah, but Lisa, that is ironic. The book is called First Shit Version. Don't touch it. Don't you dare. Go write another book and write the second book for you as well. Is that really indulgent? I love that. So we're balancing here this idea of writing for you, writing to heal, writing to grow, writing a love letter to yourself, you being an invested reader. And that was a big message from Sonia Choquette. Write in spirit, write in joy, write because the whole process is enjoyable, and write as if no one's going to read it anyway. Just write because it feels good. Don't write what is commercial, write what you want to say. And like all those messages, I was just sat, like I was nodding so much. I was like that Churchill dog in the car. I was like, oh my God, yes, trying to write all this down because it was so good. And then we're balancing it a lot with this message that came through, particularly from Kelly and from Simone, which is, what is your message and what is your promise to the reader? So beyond you and that beautiful writing healing process, who is the reader and what is the promise that you're making to them? So one thing I'm going to do is a big exercise for myself is sit down and really think, Lisa, this next book that you're writing and the membership, be the person, that whole thing, who is it for? What are you hoping to give them? And what is the message in a concise, juicy little sentence? Because that will guide what you're trying to do in the book. And in fact, you know, they all spoke about this. Chris Carr did a whole piece about how you find your message and how you find your themes and how you pull books together. And she's released a beautiful new book called I'm Not a Morning Person. If you're watching the video, I'm going to hold this up for you now. I was so drawn to this book. It looks so beautiful. I bought that as well. How many did I buy? I don't need to answer that, guys. Suffice to say, it was heavy coming through King's Cross Station. So we're balancing it with doing it for you and letting it be beautiful, enjoying the process and letting that message be concise and useful and thinking about the promise you're making to the person. So relevant in business and online courses. When you know that, you know what to put into the chapters. Oh, it's so good. That's the thing I'm going to share because I think this has gone on long enough. And again, I'm so grateful to this event. It has calmed me down and excited me and just reminded me of service. That is the truth. It's reminded me to balance the commercial aspect of business, books, courses, whatever, with being of service. Not everything needs to make money. And the more you can do to help people and move people through something, you know, in clarity, in honesty and integrity, how do you even complete that sentence? Just, of course, that's the answer. The last thing I'll share on this is a lot of the speakers talked about you and you being the perfect person to write whatever it is you're writing. So from a commercial aspect, they were saying, why you? Why are you best placed to write this book? And Sonia was saying, guys, you don't need letters after your name or qualifications or credentials. You are the credentials. She said life in capital letters is the credential that you need in order to go out and write this book. Because you've lived through something, that gives you the credit that you need to write. So you've got to really think about what you've been through in your life, what you've learned, what you can share, how you can help people who are a few steps behind you on the journey, and you are the magic in that process. So when you're thinking about why me, not because I have a degree in this or I'm qualified in this or I've got 10 years experience in this, it's like, what have you grown through as a person? What have you healed through? And what have been the big turning points in your life? You don't have to tell your whole life story. What are the turning points in your life that are useful and interesting and relevant to other people? And honestly, guys, that what I'm sharing with you, I'm so conscious I don't want to give away all of the magic of the weekend. What I'm sharing with you is 0.5% of what I took from that workshop. So my big thing is go follow HayHouse, go get on their mailing list. If you get the chance and you're writing a book, say yes to that weekend. I would say in person is the best. That was the only in-person event they did this year. I didn't know that. I feel so blessed to have gone and been in the energy of those people. They do online memberships. I'm going to link them below. And they do online versions of the workshop. Amazing. Get yourself in there. And I think, I've really learned from masters this weekend. Masters of service, masters of being useful, masters of integrity, balanced so beautifully with the commercial aspect. And the commercial aspect that I saw in them was what they had is so good, so true, so useful. There's nothing they need to sell at all because it sells itself. And that is the beauty, I think, of just turning up and being in service in the world. So thank you so much to HayHouse for that weekend, to all of the speakers, and to you for listening and for being in this community. Coming home on the train, I thought, Lisa, as if you've got people who would even click a link to say, go on, I'll have a listen. So if you've enjoyed this, please hit reply, human to human, spirit to spirit. I'd love to know that you're there and that you're listening, and let me know if you're going to go to this event or that you'd be more tempted. Or if you're writing a book, just hit reply and let me know, and I will reply to you individually if that means anything to you. I'd love to hear from you. I feel so privileged and so blessed. Have an amazing day, an amazing week. Next week's episode is going to be about thought leadership and how you write and develop your own unique thought leadership in your course, your content, and hey, let's, why not, in your book. Over and out.